So let's go ahead and perform this cloning. I'll press the enter key. And when we press the enter key, it is going to connect and it's going to ask us for the credential. See, it's now asking me for the credential. The credential here, it says, enter the username and password. Now, for this username and password, you will have to specify the username and password which you have generated using the IAM screen. So I'll specify the username and I'll mention this password and I'll press the OK button. So here, this is now connecting to my AWS code commit repository. And here it says, you appear to have cloned an empty repository. Okay, so it looks like I have done the cloning to the C drive itself, but that's okay. Let me just go over here. See, so actually the reason that it got created over here because my present working directory is C users NAVAN. So inside this folder, it created my local repository, that is local-repo, which is a clone of my cloud repository. Now what I'll do, I'll go inside this cd local repo. And if I go over here, if I see over here, just observe this. This is my local repository and I have a symbol which says as master, which means this local repository which I have right now, this belongs to my master branch. So this is my master branch. Now what I can do right now, I can go ahead and do some changes over here in this master branch, and I can commit those changes to my local repository of this master branch. And once it is done, I can go ahead and perform the activity of committing this, like pushing these changes to the AWS code commit repository. So I'll write something to this file, guys. In order to do that, I would say echo, and I'll mention it like this. This is my file, for this is my text for file one. Okay. And I'll, instead of giving the output to the screen, I will say file1.txt. Save it into the text file, that is file1.txt. And I'll press the enter key. Now, once it's done, you can clearly observe I've created just a text file which says file1.txt, and it has text which says this is a text for my file1. And I'll repeat this activity. And instead of saying it as file1, I'll say file2. And I would say file2.txt and I'll press the enter key. So this is going to create another text file. Now, once I have created this, okay, once I have created this, if I say git status, it's going to tell me that there are two files which are not being tracked. So the two new files are file1.txt and file2.txt. It's the same thing that you would observe in the GitHub as well. So when you have a local repository and when you have created some new files, in such scenarios, you're going to see a similar pattern. The same thing is happening over here as well. File1.txt and file2.txt. I have generated this. Next, once you have created these files, okay, what we can do is, in order to track these changes, we will have to track by entering the command of git add. I'll mention the file name individually. So I can say file1.txt or file2.txt, or I can mention dot. This will track all the new files which are present in my current working directory, that is in my local repository. So, and I'll press the enter key. So here it says, so it has done these things. That means it has started tracking the changes. Now when I say git status, so it says there are changes that are ready to be committed. So the two files are file1.txt and file2.txt. Now in order to do the commit, so I'll do a commit right now to my local repository. I'm going to say git commit -m, the message, and I'm going to say my first commit. And I'll press the enter key. So this has performed the commit for my local repository. Now when I say git status, so it says nothing to commit right now. So that means I have committed the changes to my local repository. Now, once it is committed to my local repository, if I want to push these changes to the master branch, I can just say git push origin master. And once I press the enter key, guys, this will push the changes from my local repositories to the remote repository. Perfect, it has been done. So let me just go ahead and refresh this. I'll go to my code commit service. So I'll come over here and I'll refresh this page. So once I refresh this page, so I can see the two files, file1.txt and file2.txt is present in my master branch. See, I've got a master branch and these files are present in my master branch. So this is how we are going to do. Next, what I'm going to do in order to show you the overall scenarios, I'm going to create a new branch and I'll create and I'll push a file to a remote repository of this new branch. Now, what I'll do is I'll create a new branch. In order to create a new branch, I'll say git branch and I'll call my branch name as dev. Now, I have created the new branch as dev. Now, in order to switch to my development branch, I would say git checkout dev. This will switch to my development branch. So I'm currently in my development branch. Now, if I say git branch, so it's going to tell me my current branch, which is selected, is development branch. I've got two branches. Development branch is what I have, like what I am right now. Now I'm going to create a file and I'll create a file and I'll commit and push these changes into the remote repositories second branch, that is my development branch. In order to do this, I'll create a new sample file. I'll say echo welcome to the course of DevOps. Okay, now I'm going to add it. I'll say DevOps.txt. It's just a sample text that I'm creating. Now, after that, I'm going to say git add dot git commit -m commit to dev branch. So this will commit to my development branch. Next, I'm going to push these changes from my local repository to my remote repository. I'm going to say git push origin dev. So I'm pushing the changes to the development branch. So now it says, yes, it has been completed. So it has pushed the changes to the development branch. Now I'm going to refresh this page. And once I do the refresh, here, if I select the option, if I can see a new branch, that is my development branch over here. Now, if I click on this development branch, I can see, yes, 3 files that are available. So one file is this devops.txt, which I have actually created for my development branch. And this file is present only in development branch and not in my master branch. So what we have done right now, yes, what we have done right now in this hands-on activity is we have seen how to create a AWS code commit repository, how to clone the repository from my remote system to the local system. And then after the cloning, we have committed the changes in the local repository, push the changes to the remote repository. And after that, we have also cloned it to a different branch as well. This is about the hands-on activity of AWS code commit. I hope this gave you an overall idea, guys. Now, I want you to observe the cleanup steps. So this cleanup steps is what we'll be doing to ensure that we will not be billed once we are done with the activity, that is with the learning of this certification journey. So in order to do the cleaning, I'll select the repository and I'll click this button which says delete repository. Now, this will help me to delete the repository. So it is giving me a confirmation message whether I want to delete or not. So I'm going to say delete. So this will delete the repository. Okay, so this KWS code commit, as I mentioned, we use it for source code version control. And we normally use it to perform the source code version control and to track the changes, and the developers can push the changes. You can take it to any level, and the best part is you can control the access with the help of IAM. You can also set the triggers as well as per your requirement. So you can also set the notification rules. You can select and you can perform multiple things. See, what we have done right now is we have performed this AWS code commit activity. Now, moving on in our next hands-on session. So currently, next, we are going to create and deploy the application using this code deploy and code pipeline. So before we move on to the code deploy and code pipeline, I'll just open this code deploy and I'll help you understand what is this code deploy. So AWS code deploy will help us to automate the code deployments to maintain the application uptime. So this is what is very important when it comes to running any application. We want to ensure that the code and the application that we are actually deploying it has high level of uptime as much as possible. And this code deploy, the best part is it's a fully managed deployment service, and this automates the software deployments to compute services like it could be EC2, it could be Lambda, or it could be on-premise servers as well. And as a result of this, it's easier for us to rapidly release new features, helps us in avoiding the downtime during the application deployment. And the best part is AWS code deploy handles the complexity for us so that we can focus on building the application, and this AWS help us in handling the complexity of updating our application. So coming to the pricing. So if you are going on deployment for code deploy on EC2 or Lambda, it's free. When I say free, it's like it's a free service given by AWS. If you are looking out for code deploy for on-premises, in such scenarios, it is $0.02 per instance. So this is the pricing for this AWS code deploy on-premises one.